When you're sitting at home or you're out and about or whatever the case is, but chances are if you're watching this, you're probably somebody who's sitting at home and you're really feeling really down and miserable and just completely empty and completely depleted about life and not even wanting to move or breathe or do anything, and you feel completely useless. You don't have the luxury of sparing a second thinking about anything negative.
I was going to kill myself. I even put my cat food recipe in my suicide note, but I changed my mind, took suicide off the table, turned my life around, made new friends, started learning 3 languages, bonjour, made a suicide documentary, spilling my guts to the world, started this YouTube channel to help you say goodbye to suicide while drinking out my Chuck E. Cheese cup.
And I was learning about all these different things that can help me in my 3D, to help my 3D get me out of bed in the morning and to get me in the shower, to get me in the gym, to get me to eat something that day. I mean, I think I lost like 10 pounds in 1 week, not in a healthy way. I was not fasting. It was not purposeful. I was just depressed and miserable. And my 3D, my day-to-day reality sucked. And it was painful because I was going through it alone. And the only person who said they were going to be there for me through this stuff left. And I had to figure out, how can I be okay by my freaking self? So I started, if you watched my documentary, which if you haven't, it's under the playlist Good Morning Eileen. And that gives you all the dirt and crazy. It's 10 episodes long, but it brings you from the very beginning through the last episode when I finally figured out how all this stuff works and how I was able to be okay. So I encourage you guys to watch that when you have some time. It is a little at times, so, but I wanted to put that out there and be honest as much as I could. When I started thinking, what can I do to come out of it? And I took those steps that I did in that video. Part of that was making posts for me that I had all over the house. And I was learning from Danny, and because I was coming out of a breakup and I was going through breakup recovery, I thought that was the best place for me to start, because when you go through a breakup, your mind is constantly on that person, missing that person. And when that person leaves you, you are broken and you are devastated. And coming from somebody who was already dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts, it does not help at all with your self-esteem, your self-concept, when you are dropped, when you are just like you didn't even matter anymore. Granted, I was the one technically that did the breakup or whatever, because I was not okay. I had to do something that was going to get me to a place where I could function as a proper grown adult. We'll put it that way. So I went to Love Advice TV, which I've shared about before. I really love them. They have other stuff too. I chose to go through their codependency course that they have, which is so amazing. I think that was definitely one of the best courses, was a codependency course with Coach Alex. I love Coach Alex. And I did some life coaching with Coach Danny. Hi, Coach Danny. He has a course too. I think it's self-awareness. I did that one. I think I did that one twice, actually. The codependency course, I probably say I did that every week for maybe like a month. I just listened to it every week, once a week, listen to it again and again and again, because I needed for it to stick in my brain. When you're sitting at home or you're out and about or whatever the case is, but chances are if you're watching this, you're probably somebody who's sitting at home and you're really feeling really down and miserable and just completely empty and completely depleted about life and not even wanting to move or breathe or do anything, and you feel completely useless. You don't have the luxury of sparing a second thinking about anything negative. So if you're in that space right now, I'm telling you, you do not have the luxury. Okay, and I don't care if you don't feel like, I don't care if you don't want to, I don't care. I don't care. What I care about is telling you, you do not have the luxury of not spending all of your seconds of your day filling it with something positive to get you to the next level of yourself, to get you to a place where you are no longer self-loathing, where you are no longer thinking, suicidal thoughts, where you're no longer thinking depressive thoughts, where you're no longer thinking that people hate you, don't like you, don't want to be your friend, they don't care, they don't trust you, they think you suck at life. You start thinking you suck at life. You start thinking you're ugly. You start thinking you're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You start having all these thoughts in your head. You don't have the luxury to think those thoughts for even one more second. You don't. And I know people are like, oh, that's impossible. Let me tell you something. I'm sitting right here because I had to do this. I had to do the work. I had to do it myself. It's not that it was hard. It's harder to be depletedly depressed, because when you're depletedly depressed, I can only imagine you're probably having suicidal thoughts like I did. And I was absolutely 110% okay with leaving this earth and going to heaven. And I didn't care at all, because I could not find one person to give me a reason for me to save my life, or for me to live, or for me to do something with my life. I could not find one person, because when I would ask people, they would just be like, I mean, what about like your family, or all day. But if you don't have a reason, it's so much easier for you to stay in your bed and melt into your bed and think about nothing but how and when you can just be done, or wishing that you get in a car accident, or wishing you drive off a bridge, or wishing that you can just take a bunch of drugs and just overdose, or wishing that you could just drink yourself into a stupor. That's facts. I was somebody who did not do drugs, and I was somebody who did not drink. And I was not somebody out there running the streets doing a bunch of crazy activities. I was just a grown woman paying her bills, going to work, doing her thing, who did not want to be here anymore because of all the negative thoughts that I had in my head. So when I took these courses, these codependency course, especially the codependency course from the Love Advice TV, I went on Post-its and put the Post-its all over my house. And a couple of my favorite ones were from Coach Alex was the truth of today, or the truth of yesterday. It was something like this. Don't quote me on this one because it's been so long since I used it. But the truth of yesterday is not the truth of tomorrow. So it might also be the truth of today is not the truth of tomorrow. So it could be either one. I prefer the truth of yesterday is not the truth of tomorrow, because if you say the truth of today, it just kind of reminds you that you're like in it right now, versus thinking what happened in the past does not have to happen in the future. So I feel like that one's more positive. So if you're needing an affirmation, I would definitely encourage you to write that one down. The truth of yesterday is not the truth of tomorrow. And you know, some of you guys know that to be fact, because something that happened to you yesterday, maybe you worked at a job here yesterday, and then today you decide to quit and you go change jobs, and now your career is completely different. Or you may have decided today that you want to move to another city or country, and guess what? Now where you live has changed from this to that. You may have decided that you don't want to have kids ever, and then all of a sudden one day you wake up and realize, you know what, it kind of would be nice to have a family. I kind of want to have kids, and guess what? Now you want to go have kids. So people change their minds. Anything is possible. Everything is possible. And the truth of yesterday is not the truth of tomorrow. And that was a big time, everyday affirmation that I had to repeat to myself constantly. The other one that I had for me at the time was, I will beat this codependency. And the reason why I had that one, codependency for me, was because my biggest pet peeve in life, my biggest hardship in life is being taken for granted. So it wasn't necessary that I didn't have a boyfriend, or that like my husband left me, or at that time my best friend had left me too. So it wasn't like all these things that people kept leaving. It was the mindset of these people take me for granted, and that's why they leave me, because they're taking me for granted. So they think that there's something better out there, better friend, or better wife, or better girlfriend, or better whatever. So I had to use the affirmation, I will beat this codependency. And it seems kind of simple, but I had to put that on my alarm. I think it was every 2 hours. I had to put that on my phone and on my Alexa all over my house. And every 2 hours, she would repeat the affirmation to me. Every 2 hours, and I had to repeat it and say it out loud every 2 hours while I was working. If I was out and about, I would look it on my phone or my Fitbit, and I had to say it every 2 hours unless I was sleeping. And when I was sleeping, I had to listen to affirmations or meditations or hypnosis, anything that was going to talk me into a positive state of mind and what the possibilities are. See, because with manifestation, you don't even have to believe that it can happen or it's real. Like, oh, I believe there's a good man out there, or I'm gonna meet a good man today. I want to be married today. I want to have kids today, or things like that. You don't have to believe that it's gonna happen to you like right now, or that you're gonna meet somebody. Like for me, I want to meet somebody that I get to bachata with when I'm old and gray and cute and adorable old and gray. And I want to meet somebody that I get to bachata with in my living room, like a cute little Latin Hallmark movie. And that's for me a non-negotiable. I was married. I couldn't dance with my husband, and that was so booty whack. It was so booty whack. I could not dance with my husband. So I said, no, the next guy that I'm with, when I get married, we are going to be dancing and being super cute and adorable together. So now I know it's going to happen. I'm back in the dating scene, doing my thing or whatever. And there's so many guys that they're like, oh, I don't dance. And I'm like, oh, you want to learn how to dance, or you just don't dance at all? And if they're like, no, it's just not my interest, I don't care, blah, blah, I'm like, left. And if they actually show interest, then that's different, because they don't have to, maybe they don't want to dance, maybe they don't know how to dance today, but they have that desire to want to dance. I could work with that. I'm not the Desiree from Daniel and Desiree right now, but one day I may be. So everybody has to start somewhere. So I'm okay with somebody who doesn't know. But I can believe that in the future will be as awesome as Desiree and Daniel. So that's what manifestation is. Manifestation is me saying, one day I'm going to be married to somebody who is like dancing with me like Daniel and Desiree, and I'm going to be like Desiree, and they're going to be my Daniel, and we're going to be super cute, adorable, dancing in my living room like a cute Latin Hallmark movie. That's a manifestation. And I know it's going to happen, and I'm not worried about it's going to happen, because it's just going to happen, and it's going to be super awesome and amazing. Now, if I would have said, I would like for somebody to dance bachata with, but, these guys, they really not into dancing anymore, or if they do, they probably, drink a lot and, partying or clubs, and I really don't want to do that kind of a scene. So I guess maybe, hopefully, I'm going to hope for the best, but if they don't, it's whatever. Like, no, bull crap. All that is gone is done. Done, done, done. And I'm going to be adding more videos so you can explain why you do not get to settle anymore. And I'm going to explain to you exactly why old you is done. You want to end that life is done. And this new way of living is what you're going to be doing now. And I'm going to explain that in another video. But for right now, I just want you to understand that when you have these thoughts in your mind, when you have these negative thoughts in your mind that are concrete in your brain, we're going to get rid of them by using affirmations like I did. And you are going to have a legit physical 3D actual change in your life. Your thoughts are going to start changing, and you're going to go from, in the beginning, you're going to do it and it's going to sound like crap. It's, I will beat this codependency, I'll beat this codependency, I'll beat this codependency. Thinking like, okay, not everybody's going to take me for granted. Not everybody, which is basically what that meant for me, is that not everybody's going to take me for granted going forward in the future. Or I'm not going to be codependent on people taking advantage of me, or be codependent on people needing me, etc. like that. We're going to use these affirmations to brainwash the negative hell out of our lives. That's what these affirmations are for. And I don't mean these washed out, generic affirmations out there like, I am queen, positive vibes only. That's just so played out now, where it just doesn't even have meaning anymore. No, it's going to be specific affirmations that are directly going to affect you, where for me, in the future, where I do not feel like I'm codependent to people taking me for granted anymore, because I won't care about people taking me for granted anymore, because it won't affect me anymore, that would be prudent for me in my life to have a better life. So that affirmation worked great for me. And along these videos, I'm going to be showing you how to make affirmations that are going to be prudent specifically for your life. So that way, today, maybe you don't believe it, maybe you don't feel it, maybe your thoughts, they're not quite there. But we're going to start this. We're going to stop using the muscles. We're going to stop using the negative muscles, the negative neuron muscles. That's probably the easiest way for me to explain it. We're going to stop using the negative neurons, muscles, stop working them out, let them get all weak. you're going to start imprinting some positive thoughts into your brain over and over. As annoying as it is, as tedious as it is, as ridiculous as you think it is, you're watching this video for a reason. So you're going to put all of these positive thoughts, all of them in your head. And when you see, you'll notice it, because over time, this is going to start to weaken. You're going to have your negative neurons are going to start to weaken. And what happens with your muscles when they weaken? They have very insignificant presence in your life. And you know, when you go to the gym every single day and then you miss a day, it's not so bad. When you go to the gym for every day and you miss a week at the gym, you feel it. When you go to church every Sunday and then you miss a Sunday, and then you miss a second Sunday, a third Sunday, your life is different. You know it, I know it, hands down. When you stop some habit that you're doing or going to, you end up feeling it. So you have to know that today, my life sucks, it's crummy, it's terrible, I feel awful, I feel depleted, everybody hates me, nobody loves me, I just want to die, I just want to end my life. All these thoughts that you're having. But then you're going to tell yourself, in the future, it doesn't have to feel that way. In the future, it's possible that I'm not going to feel that way. In the future, I'm not going to feel like this anymore. In the future, I'm going to get better. In the future, I'm going to feel better. In the future, this will all be way in the past and I'm going to have a whole different life. In the future, I actually feel good. Little by little, all these negative thoughts are going to start being insignificant. They're going to be very small, very, very minor. And to be honest with you, keeping it 100% real, a lot of them are going to disappear. So many of them are going to disappear. And I'm telling you this right now from personal experience, because I did this my dang self, by myself, taught myself, got myself out of suicide, where I was able to reduce so many of these negative neurons. And it did take a while. Once I figured it out, I was happy because I knew it was possible. Once I got to the point where I knew it was possible, I wasn't like completely healed yet, but I knew that I was going to be good to go. I knew that this Eileen that was feeling this kind of way now, even though I was still lonely and even though I was still like missing people and even though my life didn't look the way I wanted it to, I knew that in the future, I was going to be all right, because now I had this formula that I knew was going to get me from here to there. And that was enough for me to get me from there to here. So then all these positive thoughts that I had with all these affirmations that I put in, I will beat this codependency. Yesterday's truth is not the truth of tomorrow. One of them I had was I was so miserable and sad because I lost my adventure partner. And that was extremely painful for me because nobody's ever been a good recipient of me. Nobody's been a good recipient of my energy, of my adventurous personality. And the person I was with, he was perfectly aligned with the way that I give adventures, the way that I'm always up for stuff, the way that I'm always like, I just have a lot of energy and I always want to have fun and hang out and it could be anything. I don't care if it's, putting paint on my face and going to a football game or, going to the mailbox and him walking with me. Like, it was just like, everything was just an awesome, great moment. And I know it's quality time. Clearly that's one of my love languages, my top love languages. But it was just great to just do anything. Like, I don't necessarily have hobbies except for like, I like going to dance classes, but outside of that, I don't necessarily have like hobbies. I just like out doing stuff and having like a good time with good company, because when you have great company, that whole experience is going to be like top notch. So when I lost that top notch good company, then it felt like, oh my gosh, like this sucks because now I lost the adventures. I'm not going to have any more adventures. Who am I going to have adventures with? Blah, 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 blah. And then I said, you know what? Bump that. I said, you know what? Anybody can go out there and do those things. And they're going to have a crap time. But when I go do those things, then they have a good time. Because I don't give adventures. I am the adventure. And I had to remind myself that. I don't give adventures. I am the adventure. So when other people talk about, oh, I want an adventure, I'm like, no, I'm the adventure. I don't want to hear about you took some girl on an adventure. I'm the adventure. So if you didn't take me out, that girl don't count. That's not an adventure. That's whatever. So that was one of my other affirmations, and that helped me out a lot too. I'm trying to think. Maybe I'll find some of my other affirmations. To be honest, if you want to see my affirmations, go to my video. I would say somewhere between episodes 7 and 10. There's some affirmations in there for sure, because I was that was at the time when I was actually making a documentary of me coming out of my suicidal state. So I would say watch those, and you can get those affirmations from there. But all those affirmations that I had, that I used, and I listened to it and I repeated them every 2 hours. Every 2 hours. And when I was sleeping, hypnosis, meditations, affirmation meditations, like overnight sleep ones that just looped for like 6 hours, 8 hours, or whatever. And then throughout the day, even when I was working, I would have the videos on so that way I can listen to it while I was working all day. Even some of which I'd be mindful of, the subliminals, if you could find a subliminals that actually like, you can see what they're going to speak over your life, because you don't want nobody speaking anything crazy over your life now, then I would say that's really important too. Those things are really, really helpful, because once you get to a place where you are able to change these negative neurons, you're now changing, and I'm not going to get into this, but I will tell you where to look. You're now changing your self-concept. You are, which I'll talk about in other videos too. You're changing your self-concept, and you're basically changing your DNA. Because if your brain, for example, when you get a cut, your body heals itself.